I opened our Ring camera feed. At 2:17 a.m., a man whispered, "Good night, baby," while locking my door. She was snoring beside me in bed. My name is Evan, 33 years old, and until last winter I thought I was living a predictable, safe kind of life. My fiancée Tara and I shared a modest two-story house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where people mow their lawns on Saturdays and complain about the recycling schedule on Facebook. I worked as a systems analyst for a mid-sized logistics company, mostly remote, which meant I was the one who noticed when the dishwasher made a strange rattle or when the neighbor's dog dug under our fence again. Tara worked at a dental clinic downtown, and she liked to say her patients thought of her as this smiling face that made drills less scary. Our relationship had been stable, at least from where I stood. We were 6 months away from a wedding date already reserved at a lakeside venue, deposits paid, families informed, and plans etched into calendars. I won't paint Tara as some villain straight away. She had quirks that grated on me. The way she left half-empty coffee mugs in every room, her obsession with overpriced candles, but nothing that suggested what I was about to stumble into. The Ring camera system was my idea. I convinced myself it was just about security. Packages went missing sometimes, and a neighbor had his car broken into last year. So I spent a weekend wiring cameras by the front door, back door, and garage. The main feed displayed on my phone, and I could scroll through recordings whenever I wanted. Tara rolled her eyes at the effort, but I liked the sense of control. What I didn't know was that this same little device, meant to catch porch pirates, would shake the foundation of my entire life. It was a Tuesday night when things started unraveling. Or technically, early Wednesday morning, 2:17 a.m., according to the timestamp burned into my memory. I had trouble sleeping that night, restless from too much caffeine and a late-night coding sprint for work. Tara was snoring lightly beside me, one hand flung across the blanket in that careless way she always did when she was out cold. I tried to distract myself by scrolling through my phone, and for reasons I still can't explain, I opened the Ring app. The feed showed a man. Not just any man, but someone clearly familiar with our house. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a jacket zipped halfway up. His face was shadowed, but the camera picked up the sound clear as day. "Good night, baby," whispered, almost tender. He leaned forward, as though addressing someone just inside, and then clicked the lock shut with a practiced twist. He held a key. My key. He pocketed it, turned, and walked down the driveway, vanishing into the dark. The feed cut out as the motion sensor went still. I froze. Not figuratively. My thumb hovered over the phone screen, and I actually felt my chest tighten until my breath came in shallow bursts. My first irrational thought was that I had accidentally switched feeds, that I was watching someone else's camera, not mine. But the porch light, the welcome mat Tara bought, the crooked gutter I kept meaning to fix, they were mine. This was my front door, my house. And beside me, snoring gently, was Tara. I replayed the clip twice. The words, low but distinct, were unmistakable. "Good night, baby." Not a neighbor saying farewell, not a delivery driver mixing up addresses. This was someone who entered, locked up, and left as if it were second nature. Worse still, he had a key. I glanced at Tara, her hair spilling across the pillow, her face relaxed in deep sleep. A cruel thought flashed. Had she heard it before? The same voice, those same words? I didn't wake her. That's the part people often question when I tell them this story. Why didn't I shake her awake, demand answers right then? But imagine it. 2 in the morning, your blood pressure spiking, your hands trembling. You don't shout into the dark without knowing where the echo will lead. I told myself I needed proof, context, something more than a blurry video clip. My rational brain kicked in, maybe as a survival instinct. I locked my phone, set it on the nightstand, and lay there with eyes wide open until dawn painted the blinds with pale light. The next morning, I copied the footage to a separate hard drive. Tara was already gone, having left for work before sunrise like she often did when she wanted to get ahead of patient charts. She kissed me on the cheek on her way out, humming to herself, the picture of normal. I almost laughed at how surreal it felt. Her casual goodbye while I still heard that stranger's whisper looping in my head. I spent the day combing through past recordings. At first, nothing, just Amazon drivers, a raccoon rifling through the trash, the usual suburban nonsense. But then I found him again. 3 nights earlier, same approximate time, he appeared on the edge of the frame. He didn't speak that time, but he walked straight up, tested the handle, unlocked it, and slipped inside. 2 minutes later he reappeared, shutting the door behind him. The casual way he did it, like someone who knew he belonged, made my stomach twist. And another time, nearly 2 weeks prior, he stood in the shadows longer, glancing around before leaving. That meant it wasn't a one-off mistake or a prank. It was a pattern. By then I was pacing the living room, checking the locks compulsively, running my hands over the doorframe to see if anything looked tampered with. Everything was intact. The only explanation was that he had a key. But how? I controlled the locksmith work when we bought the place. I carried one set. Tara had the other. A spare sat in the kitchen drawer, untouched. Unless she'd made a duplicate. That thought nearly knocked me over. It was simple, even mundane. People copy keys all the time. But in this context, it screamed betrayal. She'd handed access to our home, our private space, to another man. And he wasn't just using it to visit when I wasn't around. He was here in the dead of night, whispering things at our door while she lay beside me. My mind raced with scenarios. Was he inside while I slept? Had he stood in the hallway, watching, waiting? I told myself not to spiral. Instead, I needed control. So I backed up every clip, labeling them by date and time. I hid the drive inside my office safe, under tax documents Tara never bothered with. Then I sat on the couch with my laptop and started researching locksmith services in town, already formulating a plan to quietly rekey the house. All the while, Tara texted me about dinner plans, whether we should pick up Thai or cook at home, as if nothing in the universe had shifted. I responded with short answers, claiming work was hectic. The less she suspected, the more time I had to observe. That evening, I watched her carefully. She cooked pasta, laughed at a commercial, scrolled through her phone while humming along to a playlist. Her eyes never darted nervously, her hands never shook. If she was hiding something, she'd perfected the mask. When she went to bed early, claiming exhaustion, I stayed downstairs, pretending to watch TV, but really staring at the Ring feed on my laptop. Midnight passed. 1 o'clock. 2. Nothing. I shut it off and dragged myself upstairs, though sleep refused to come. The next few days blurred into a tense routine. Tara acted normal, maybe even sweeter than usual, touching my arm while we cooked, asking more about my work, suggesting a weekend getaway. Was it guilt? A distraction tactic? I couldn't tell. But every night, I scrolled through the feeds, searching for shadows, listening for whispers. Some nights, nothing happened. Other nights, I caught faint movements at the edge of the camera, but too brief to confirm. I started noticing small things inside the house too. The back door sometimes clicked softer than I remembered. A glass moved from the sink to the counter with no explanation. Once, I woke up to the faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine. I checked Tara's perfume bottles, sniffing them like some deranged detective, but none matched. My paranoia gnawed at me, but I couldn't dismiss it as imagination. On the fourth night after that first discovery, I made another unsettling find. Around 2:20 a.m., the camera caught him again. Same man, same jacket, but this time he muttered something while fumbling with the lock. The audio was faint, but when I boosted the volume, I heard it. Not tonight. Then he slipped away into the shadows. Not tonight. What did that mean? Not tonight, because Evan was awake. Because Tara hadn't given the signal? The possibilities curdled my stomach. That's when I realized this wasn't simply about infidelity. Cheating would have been devastating, yes, but the layers here suggested something else. Why sneak in while I was home? Why whisper at the door while she was right beside me? It was as if I was being tested, studied, maybe even toyed with. I lay awake until morning, Tara curled at my side, oblivious. My decision hardened in those silent hours. I wasn't going to confront her yet. That would only tip my hand. Instead, I needed to know exactly who he was, what he wanted, and how long it had been happening. The next step was obvious. Find out more about the stranger in my house. And I would do it without Tara ever knowing. That night, after she fell asleep, I crept downstairs, plugged in the drive, and organized the clips again. My heart hammered with equal parts dread and determination. I was no longer a fiancé planning a wedding. I was an investigator assembling evidence. And whoever that man was, he had just turned my quiet, suburban life into a puzzle I intended to solve piece by piece. The morning after I decided to dig deeper, I walked into work with my laptop bag slung over my shoulder, though I barely remembered the drive. Every red light, every stretch of highway, I replayed the video of that man in my head. The whisper, the casual twist of the lock, the glint of something metallic in his hand. It all replayed like a movie loop I couldn't pause. At the office, I closed my door, logged onto the network, and opened the clips again. I froze one frame where his wrist was visible under the jacket cuff. There it was, a tattoo. Small, dark, just above the bone. It looked like an angular shape, maybe letters, maybe a symbol. The camera quality wasn't perfect, but I knew one thing. Tattoos are identifiers. That detail stuck with me. Next frame, his jacket. A worn bomber style, faded along the seams. On the left side near the zipper, a patch had peeled halfway off. Not brand new, not generic. Distinctive. Small details like this are the kind that witnesses recall. They're also the details police reports depend on. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. Who was he? A neighbor? A coworker of Tara's? Someone from the dental clinic? My chest tightened at the thought of her leading this man through the same hallways where she smiled at patients. That evening, I started canvassing without making it obvious. I pretended to work on my car out in the driveway. The hood popped open while I sipped beer. I nodded at neighbors walking dogs, made small talk. One older man 2 houses down mentioned he'd noticed a black sedan parked on the street a few nights, engine off, lights out. He assumed it was an Uber driver taking a break. My stomach turned. I didn't ask questions that would raise suspicion, just filed it away. Black sedan, unfamiliar. Back inside, I began cataloging. I took screenshots of the tattoo, the jacket, the way the man carried himself. Then I made a spreadsheet with times, dates, notes. If I was going to catch him, I needed a pattern. On the 5th night after my discovery, I took a bigger step. While Tara showered, I went through her phone. I had never done it before, and my hands shook while scrolling. At first, everything looked boring. Group chats about bridesmaids' dresses, work updates, her sister sharing pictures of a nephew's soccer game. Nothing incriminating. But I kept searching. Buried inside a folder labeled Utilities was something odd, an app I'd never seen before. It wasn't WhatsApp, not Signal, not Messenger. A generic gray icon, barely noticeable. My pulse quickened as I opened it. Messages appeared. Not many, but enough. Most were short, cryptic, like codes. 12 tonight. Quiet. Wait for signal. And one that made my stomach twist. Don't worry, she'll stay asleep. I stared at that line until the letters blurred. It wasn't just an affair. This sounded like strategy, planning, coordination. Something I wasn't supposed to notice. I closed the app quickly, deleted the recently used trace, and slipped the phone back before Tara emerged from the shower wrapped in a towel. She smiled at me, casual, like everything was normal. I forced a smile back, hiding the storm raging in my chest. The next night, I escalated. I called in a favor from an old friend, Luis, who ran a locksmith business. I told him I needed my locks rekeyed urgently, without Tara knowing. He came by under the guise of fixing a jammed door. In 20 minutes, every lock was replaced with a new set of keys. Tara believed Luis was there because of sticking bolts. She didn't question it. That night, I waited. Midnight. 1 o'clock. 2. The cameras caught him. The man walked up confidently, pulled out a key, and slid it into the lock. He twisted once, twice. Nothing. His body stiffened. He tried again. The lock held firm. He stepped back, muttered something under his breath. The audio caught fragments. What the? Followed by a sharp exhale. Then, clearly into a phone. No. He changed it. He glanced around, shoved the key back into his pocket, and stormed away. My whole body shivered. He had been certain the key would work. And the way he reacted proved something else. Tara hadn't warned him. That meant she didn't know I'd changed them. He assumed the locks would open because that's what always happened before. The next morning, Tara acted normal again. Made breakfast, kissed me goodbye, scrolled Instagram while sipping coffee. She didn't mention the locks. Didn't flinch when she turned them. Maybe she hadn't even noticed yet. But now the lines were drawn. That evening, I sat at my desk replaying the clip. The tattoo. The jacket. His voice when he cursed into the phone. I felt both relief and dread. Relief that my plan had worked. Dread because now he knew someone had caught on. I couldn't risk only passive observation anymore. So I followed her. It was Friday night. Tara told me she was going to a late yoga class with a friend. She dressed in black leggings, tossed her mat in the trunk, and left with a cheerful wave. I waited 3 minutes, grabbed my jacket, and slipped out behind her. I kept 2 cars behind, careful not to get too close. She didn't head toward the studio. She drove west, past the downtown exit, toward the edge of town where the streets grew darker and the houses sparser. My pulse pounded in my ears as I followed her taillights. Finally, she turned into a narrow driveway beside a single-story house with peeling paint. I pulled over half a block away, killed my lights, and watched. She got out, no yoga mat in sight. The porch light flicked on. The door opened. And there he was, the man from the Ring footage. Same build, same jacket, same shadowed face. She stepped into his arms. I inched closer, using the dark to my advantage, until I reached the side of the house. A cracked window sat low enough for me to hear. Their voices spilled out, muffled but clear enough. You didn't tell me about the locks, he snapped. I didn't know, Tara said. Maybe the landlord changed them. Landlord? He's not stupid. He's onto us. I can handle it, she insisted. No, he said firmly. We need to move faster. No more delays. My chest turned to ice. Move faster? Handle what? This wasn't the language of secret lovers sneaking kisses. This was planning. Conspiracy. Then came the worst part. I gave him those pills like you said, Tara muttered, voice low. He thinks they're vitamins. He sleeps through anything. I staggered back from the window, heart slamming. Pills. Vitamins. That explained the heavy sleep, The mornings I woke foggy, the odd bitter taste in the water glass she sometimes offered me before bed. This wasn't an affair. This was deliberate manipulation, maybe even poisoning. I fumbled for my phone, recording the audio through the cracked window. Their voices bled onto the file, enough to prove I wasn't hallucinating. But as I turned to leave, gravel crunched under my shoe. The man's head snapped toward the window. A chair scraped inside. The door banged open. "There," he shouted. I bolted into the dark, sprinting for my car. Tara's voice followed, shrill. "Evan." I didn't look back. I dove into the driver's seat, tires screeching as I pulled away. My hands shook on the wheel the whole drive home. My chest burned from fear, adrenaline, and betrayal all tangled into one. I replayed the recording to make sure it had saved. Their voices were faint but clear enough. Proof. I called the police that night, anonymously. Explained there was someone entering my house, someone who had access to my fiancée, someone using substances against me. The dispatcher's voice was calm but detached. "Do you have direct evidence of criminal intent?" she asked. I had video. I had audio. I had suspicions, but no broken locks, no forced entry, no direct threat on tape. They logged the report as a domestic matter. I hung up, my chest hollow. The next evening, I returned home to find my Ring camera ripped off the wall. Wires dangled from the siding. The device lay shattered on the ground. I stared at it, numb. Someone had been here. Someone wanted me blind. When Tara walked in later with grocery bags, I asked lightly, "Did you notice the camera?" She blinked at it, feigning surprise. "Oh no. Vandalism. Maybe kids." Her act was flawless. Too flawless. She carried the bags inside, humming. I stood in the driveway staring at the broken device, the cold air biting my skin, and realized this had gone beyond suspicion. They knew I knew. And if they were willing to break cameras, maybe the next step would be breaking me. The smashed Ring camera lay in pieces on the porch for 2 days before I replaced it. Not because I expected it to scare them off, but because I wanted them to know I wasn't giving up. I mounted a new device, smaller, discreet, angled differently, so it blended with the siding. This time, I placed 2 more hidden cameras inside the house. One in the hallway disguised as a smoke detector, another tucked into a USB charger in the living room. If they thought they'd blinded me, they were wrong. Still, the act itself told me something. They weren't afraid to make moves. They were bold enough to come onto my property, rip off security, and walk away without hesitation. That kind of confidence meant they believed Tara's cover story kept me in the dark. But I wasn't in the dark anymore. For the next week, I lived like an intruder in my own house. Tara still played her role flawlessly. She cooked, laughed, planned bridal fittings. She even asked if I wanted to go ring shopping again, pretending everything was ordinary. But every time she handed me water, every time she offered tea before bed, I resisted. I'd excuse myself, pour it down the drain, or switch cups when she wasn't looking. I started sleeping lightly, one eye always open, waiting for the next crack in the facade. One night, I got it. The hallway camera picked up faint motion at 2:40 a.m. A shadow moved across the frame. My chest tightened as I watched the playback. The man, the same one, creeping silently down the hallway. He paused outside the bedroom door, stood there, listening. My body on the bed was visible in the crack of light from the street lamp, unmoving. He lingered for almost 30 seconds before turning and slipping back out the door. I didn't stir, not in the footage. Which meant Tara had been right. Those pills had been knocking me out. He had been in the house before, while I slept helpless, maybe feet from my bed. The thought made bile rise in my throat. The next evening, I confronted Tara, but not directly about the man. I tested the waters. "Strange thing," I said casually over dinner. "I could have sworn I heard someone outside last night." She froze for half a second, just long enough for me to notice, before her mask slipped back into place. "Oh, maybe raccoons again. You worry too much, Evan." Her tone was breezy, but her knuckles whitened around her fork. That was confirmation enough for me. The following Friday, I decided to tail her again. She said she was meeting a friend at a cafe. I knew better. I followed from a distance, heart pounding, headlights dimmed. She didn't go near any cafe. Instead, she drove to the same peeling house on the edge of town. I parked farther back this time and approached on foot, sticking close to fences. The living room blinds glowed faintly. I crouched low, close enough to hear. Inside, their voices rose in sharp argument. "You're dragging this out," the man snarled. "I'm trying to keep it clean," Tara hissed back. "Clean? He already suspects. He changed the locks. He's watching. If we push too fast, he'll get proof." "He already has proof," the man snapped. "We need to finish it before he—" I didn't wait to hear the rest. My blood ran cold. Finish it? What did that mean? Were they planning to rob me? Get rid of me entirely? I backed away quietly, my hands trembling so hard my phone nearly slipped from my grip. That night, I loaded the recordings, both the hallway shadow and the house audio, onto another drive. Now I had enough to show intent. But I also knew the police had dismissed me once already. I needed more. The breaking point came 3 nights later. I was dozing lightly when I heard faint creaks on the stairs. My pulse spiked. I slid silently from bed, careful not to wake Tara, and crept to the door. Peeking through the crack, I saw him. Inside the house again, moving toward the kitchen. He rifled through drawers, pulled something out, then froze. His head turned slightly, like he sensed me. My heart hammered, but I forced myself still. After a few tense seconds, he shoved whatever he'd taken into his pocket and slipped out the back door. I patted down once he was gone. The drawer he'd opened was the one where we kept spare keys and documents. A folder lay half-shoved back inside. I pulled it out. Inside were copies of my insurance papers, bank account details, even my life insurance policy Tara had asked me to sign last year. My skin went clammy. This wasn't about cheating. It wasn't even just about betrayal. They were lining up everything for a clean exit, for Tara and her lover, with me out of the picture. The next day, I confronted her directly. I waited until evening, when she curled on the couch scrolling her phone. Strange, I said, standing in the doorway. I found my insurance papers lying out. Her head snapped up, eyes wide before she caught herself. Really? Maybe you left them when you did taxes. I didn't. And I didn't move the spare keys either. Her smile faltered, but she forced it back. You're being paranoid again. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Am I? Because the cameras don't lie, Tara. Her color drained. For the first time, the mask slipped completely. What cameras? She stammered. The ones you didn't find, I said coldly. Silence stretched between us, thick and poisonous. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. Finally, she whispered, You don't understand. I understand enough, I snapped. She bolted to her feet, grabbing her phone, muttering something about calling a friend. I blocked the doorway. You're not leaving, I said. Her eyes flashed with panic, then defiance. You'll ruin everything, she spat. She shoved past me, storming upstairs, slamming the door. I stood in the living room, fists clenched, my whole body shaking. The facade had cracked. She knew I knew. And that meant whatever plan she and her lover had been building would either accelerate or collapse. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, every creak of the house making my skin prickle. By dawn, I'd made up my mind. If the police wouldn't act, I would. I wasn't going to wait to be finished. I would set a trap. The plan formed while I sat in the dark, staring at the faint glow of the hallway camera feed. Every instinct told me to leave, to pack a bag and disappear, but leaving meant surrendering control. It meant letting Tara and the man tighten whatever noose they had been looping around me. No, I needed them exposed. I needed undeniable proof, and I needed them caught in the act. So I staged my absence. I told Tara I'd been asked to travel for work, a sudden system rollout at a client's facility out of state. Her reaction was too quick, too bright. She clapped her hands together, pretending to pout about missing me, but barely hiding the spark in her eyes. She asked what day I was leaving, how long I'd be gone, whether I'd be reachable. I gave her vague answers. 3 days, maybe 4. Spotty service. She nodded too eagerly. That night, I packed a bag with enough to make it look real. I even left it by the front door in plain sight. Early the next morning, I drove out of the neighborhood, circled 2 blocks, and parked behind an abandoned gas station where my car would go unnoticed. Then I walked back through side streets, slipped into the house through the garage, and set up my trap. The cameras were already in place, but I added 2 more, one facing the kitchen, another in the corner of the bedroom. Both were disguised as everyday electronics. I checked the feeds, confirmed they were recording, then climbed into the attic crawl space above the bedroom with a sleeping bag, water, and granola bars. It wasn't comfortable, but from there I could hear everything below. And then I waited. The first day, nothing. Tara went about her routine, texting friends, cooking for one, humming while she did laundry. At night, she called me, voice syrupy sweet, asking how the hotel was. I whispered about long hours, made excuses about bad reception, and ended the call quickly. The second night, at 2:15 a.m., the front door creaked. My body tensed in the attic heat. I strained my ears. Baby, a low voice whispered. He's gone. We've got time. The man. The same one from the ring feed. I heard Tara giggle softly. Finally, she breathed. I slid my phone from my pocket and pulled up the hidden camera feeds. The kitchen camera showed him kissing her, slipping an arm around her waist like he owned the place. The bedroom camera showed her pulling him onto the bed we shared. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to keep watching. Proof mattered more than rage. As they moved around the room, their voices carried. Once it's all signed, it's ours, he said. Don't worry, Tara replied. He trusts me. He'll never know what hit him. My blood iced. They weren't just mocking me. They were openly planning to strip me of everything. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. You sure the pills are enough? What if he wakes up one night? They've worked every time, she said confidently. I'll just tell him he needs them for stress. He's too gullible. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails bit into my palms. I waited until they were both fully inside, fully relaxed. Then I slipped down from the attic, as silent as I could, and crept into the hallway. My hands trembled, but I forced myself steady. I opened the living room drawer, pulled out the remote, and switched the TV on. The screen blazed to life, filling the silence. Both of them froze. On the screen played the hallway footage, the man creeping outside our bedroom door at night, listening, watching. Then another clip, Tara whispering at the peeling house, promising she'd keep me asleep. Another, him cursing into his phone when the locks didn't work. Then finally, the one from that very night, showing them entering together, mocking me. They scrambled off the bed. Tara gasped, Evan. I stepped into the doorway. Keep watching, I said coldly. The man cursed, lunging forward like he might grab the remote, but I raised my phone. Police are on the way, I said. They've been watching this whole time. It was a bluff, but a powerful one. The man froze. His eyes darted to Tara, then to the cameras blinking faintly in the corners. His face drained of color. Tara stammered. Evan, please, it's not what it looks like. Save it, I snapped. Every second of this is recorded. Every whisper, every pill, every plan. She crumpled onto the bed, clutching the sheets, eyes wide with panic. He paced like a trapped animal, muttering curses under his breath. I didn't give them a chance to regroup. I walked out the front door, dialed 911, and this time, I didn't stay anonymous. I told them a man had broken into my house, that I had video of him using stolen keys, and that my fiancée had conspired to help him. My voice shook, but the dispatcher took me seriously when I said I had footage. 15 minutes later, red and blue lights flashed across the siding. The man tried to bolt through the back, but officers caught him before he cleared the fence. In his pocket they found lockpicks, a second key, and a small bottle of unmarked pills. Tara screamed as they cuffed him, insisting it was all a mistake, that she didn't know anything. But the recordings said otherwise. Inside, I showed the officers my setup. The hidden cameras, the hard drives labeled with dates, the audio from the peeling house. They examined everything, taking notes, asking questions. One officer flipped through the folder of my insurance papers I'd found disturbed. His brows furrowed. This is serious, he said. Tara was taken in for questioning. She pleaded, cried, begged me to explain it was just an affair, just a stupid mistake. But the pills, the documents, the surveillance told a different story. In the days that followed, the fallout spread like wildfire. The man, his name was Bryce, I later learned, was charged with unlawful entry, possession of burglary tools, and attempted tampering with medication. Tara faced conspiracy charges, along with aiding unlawful entry. The wedding was, of course, canceled. The venue called to ask if I wanted my deposit refunded. I told them to keep it. I had no desire to ever step foot there again. Word spread fast. Tara's family reached out, some in denial, some horrified. Her sister begged me not to press charges. Her mother accused me of ruining her daughter's life. I hung up. At work, I kept my head down, though whispers circled. People had seen the news reports about a local burglary ring, about a man who'd been sneaking into houses with inside help. Bryce wasn't just targeting me, it turned out. He had priors, breaking and entering, fraud, even stalking. But I was the one who'd finally caught him red-handed. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. Every creak, every shadow reminded me of his presence, of her laughter beside him. So I sold it, packed what little I cared to keep, moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. No hidden keys, no whispers in the night. Some nights, I still wake at 2:17 a.m. sharp, heart pounding, half expecting to hear that voice again. But then I remind myself, it's over. They're both facing consequences. Looking back, the part that chills me most isn't the cheating. It isn't even the betrayal. It's how close I came to missing it. If I hadn't checked the ring feed that night, if I just rolled over and gone back to sleep, I might still be swallowing those vitamins, still letting them creep through the house, still walking blind into whatever end they had planned for me. In a twisted way, technology saved me. A motion sensor and a whisper caught on tape were the threads that unraveled the entire scheme. Now, when people ask why I'm so cautious, why I triple-check locks and cameras, I just smile thinly. I don't tell them the whole story, but I keep those hard drives stored away, labeled, untouched. Proof that sometimes paranoia isn't paranoia at all. Sometimes it's survival.